Hi everyone, this is Estelle Vasudevan joining you from the Rangili Dambulu Stadium, where Sri Lanka I don't know how they've got through, but they've got through a tight game in the semi-final of the Asia Cup, and they've made it to the final where they'll be coming up against the red hot favorites India. But we're not here to talk about the final. We're here to talk about what went on today. It was a bit of a mad game, and I have Madushka Balasuriya from ESPN Cricket Info with me to do a bit of a reaction on the game. Madhush, first of all, I can feel the lights dimming around us. I hope we
Yeah,
don't have to move back inside. Um,
it became quite
we
dark.
can still be
But
seen. We're fine.
yeah, we're good, we're good.
Um, First of all, it's been a couple of hours since the game ended. How are you feeling?
Well, I think my heart rate just about went down. I would say maybe about 15 minutes ago. I think mainly because I was just quickly writing up a piece and I was reliving it in my head, and it's every time I think about it, there's just so many different aspects. I'm thinking about the fans. It's so wonderful for the fans to have experienced watching a women's cricket game, which I don't think they would have ever experienced in Sri Lanka like that, right? I mean, I know the Bangladesh game was about 6 days ago, and there
Yeah.
was a big turnout, but it wasn't this. It wasn't this
No, no.
nail biter where they're cheering the whites, they're cheering the buys. There's just so much of like emotion taking place, and then for the players on top of that, you could see it when they went out the bat when a wicket fell. Like, I don't think they've ever felt. I mean, of course, you feel disappointed in yourself if you get out or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think for them, the main thing was it was like, oh, you're disappointing this entity that's that's pulsing within the stadium. So it was really something. And I'm so glad that they got the win
Yeah.
because it would have been very anticlimactic. But but it worked out well for everyone here, except of course. I mean, I felt really it was really tough for the Pakistan side who fought
Mhm.
tooth and nail, and I'm sure there would have been a lot of people rooting for the India Pakistan final as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing was that in the first part of the game, first innings, while Pakistan was batting, the crowd is pretty much silenced, right? Because
Ye-
I mean, Sri Lanka were going for far more runs than they would have expected. The fielding was below par, if I can say that, because they've been, I would say, probably the best fielding side in the Asia Cup so far. But today, there were missed opportunities, misjudgments, misfields, a couple of boundary line clearances that didn't go well. It just felt like the players were really wilting under the pressure. And I'm glad you mentioned the players and the crowd because you have to remember these girls have not played in front of crowds like this, not at home, most certainly, right? And to have it is a pressure to have that expectation. First of all, I don't know. For as long as I've been watching the women's team, I don't think Sri Lanka has ever come into a game against Pakistan as favorites. I mean, basically everyone who watches the game is expecting Sri Lanka to beat them and go into the final. That's
Yeah,
one pressure. And then you have the crowd. You asked Chamari something about it, right?
yes, yes, and her answer was very, very succinct. She was, yeah, definitely. Like there was no beating around the bush. She knew what was going on, and but she also mentioned how she was proud of her players. And I think in a situation like this, no one's going to walk in and just be cool with it. You know,
Yeah,
it's the first time you're experiencing it, and the thing you have to understand is even if you take the men's team, if you are working your way through into the national side, you would have still felt maybe not to this level, but you would play the big match.
yeah,
You'd play these big crowds. You know, there's always that expectation that people have of you when you're coming through. But for these girls, I mean, just a couple of years ago, they were playing bilateral series in stadiums in Katunayaka,
yeah,
right? You know, so suddenly you're at a 16,000 capacity stadium. It's not full by any means. There were empty seats, but it's still a couple of thousand people at least. That they
yeah.
make a noise.
Mm.
And yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, and for me as well, because I cover a lot of cricket, but anytime I go to the stadium, it's for a men's cricket match.
Mm.
This is I want to say my first women's game that I'm covering from the stadium. And man, if they're
Not the
all right,
last, I hope.
yeah. I mean, the finals coming up, and I think the finals are a very interesting one. Just because, yes, this pressure will be there again, but Sri Lanka, they will go back into that familiar territory of underdogs again.
Yep,
I think being
absolutely.
favorites and the pressure was a lot, but I think it could be a real interesting combination of underdogs with the home support.
Mm.
If they can put it all together, it'll still take a lot to beat India, right? That,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I mean,
it's
India
interesting.
coming into this tournament as probably, a team that looks like having a shot at the World Cup as well. So it would be tough to say that Sri Lanka beat them. I actually have a fan story, not a fan story, but a kind of core memory of covering women's cricket for me was back in 2017. Me and my colleague Dinush Kiranasinghe, she's a photographer. We convinced the editor to send the two of us to Dambulla to cover the ODI series between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, right? I'll be honest with you, I only requested it because I thought Sri Lanka's going to win. So I thought, okay, you go there, three games are going to win. We have a nice long holiday in Dambulla. We come back. Sri Lanka lost 3-0. Okay. It was terrible. And like, I remember that series, um, as you know, the Dambulla press box is like 4 floors up, and
Yeah,
most often you have to take the stairs, right? So since I think I was the only writer here, or I was the only one who was there right throughout. So I told the media manager, look, I'm not going to come up. I'll stay downstairs with the photographer. So we were right at the boundary line, right? And I remember during one of the games, probably the last game, this group of men came. Like, there wasn't a crowd at all. At most it was probably about 100 or 200 people. This group of men came in. I think they were kind of drunk. This one man kept screaming, Chamari, I love you. I can still hear it in my head, right? He just kept saying it. It was a bit weird. I'm not going to lie, it was a bit weird, but the players found it hilarious. I can remember seeing like Shashikala Sirivardhana at mid-off or mid-on laughing her ass off. She couldn't stop because that man kept screaming it, and there's no other noise around, right? This wasn't, I don't think it was broadcast live, even, right? Um, so it was just like this weird moment. And then, fast forward to today, thousands and thousands of people screaming her name. I
yeah.
don't know. I mean, I don't, to me, it feels, it's kind of moving to me. I can't imagine how it feels to her, right?
Oh,
To have that kind of support.
absolutely. Yeah, because there were chants of Chamari, and it's and even the Sri Lanka chants, because we hear that
Yeah.
at all Sri Lanka matches, but I
Mhm.
felt like it took a different kind of flavor hearing it today, because all these men are like, yeah, there were actually quite a few. I'm pretty sure they were also
Yes.
on the tipple, but they were up for it. They were up for it, and then just seeing the girls, uh, in anticipation of that final over, just ready to run in, celebrate. You could see what it meant to them.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this, I think, with you, Estelle, even after the earlier semi-final between Bangladesh and India, and I was like, yeah, what these girls need is just more of this.
Mm.
Just give them more. Just
Yeah.
just play more competitive matches. Fill the stadiums. Push it. Get fans in, and you will just see the level rise.
Mm.
It's quite simple. The plan is
Yeah.
simple. You just got to execute it. And credit to everyone who's organized this. Like, people have started coming in.
Yeah. And the
And
free entry part, right? I know people are
yeah,
going to say, like, of course people turned up because it was free, but you have to start somewhere. And I feel like
yeah.
now is the time. If you don't capitalize on this team now, there's no better time, right?
None at all. Because I mean, listen, we actually talk about Chamari Atapattu as like this veteran and all that, right? But she's actually 32,
34.
right? 34. But 34 is not bad. I mean, Rohit Sharma just won at 37, right? So Chamari is fit. I mean, Chamari was playing with one arm today.
Yeah, yeah.
So Chamari's got it together. She's got a couple more years there. She can be that. older statesperson in the
Yeah,
side, and then you got this bunch of youngsters, so many
yeah,
exciting players coming through. Uh, it's a good time to be following uh,
yeah.
Sri Lankan cricket, South Asian women's cricket. It's a
Mm.
very good time.
When I think about it, like although we see for you and me, I think it's our experiences with cricket are quite similar in that we grew up watching Sri Lanka very successful, but by the time we were actually able to understand like the little nuances and stuff like that, like that historic part of Sri Lanka cricket was done, right? But I feel like
Yeah, but
now we are witnessing that moment that changes, that era that changes everything.
yeah, I mean, by the time we got jobs, basically,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Once you started
all the
getting paid to watch it,
the fight to get Sri Lanka proper players in cricket, all of that was kind of done, right? By the time we were old enough to kind of
yeah,
understand those things. Um, I'll just come to the game so that we can go through it a little bit
yeah,
before we wrap up. Chamari mentioned in the pre-match discussion, sorry, the post-match discussion about the start they got, and that's been one of the areas we've discussed on this pod actually. Um, the wicket taking of the Sri Lankan bowling lineup. Today they didn't pick up wickets
no,
at the start, right? And that put a huge amount of pressure on the team because they are used to getting those first over wickets, second over wickets, right? It didn't happen today. What I thought was it felt like they're a bit too set in their ways in wanting to give every bowler one over in the power play. Whereas maybe they should have had Inoshi bowling two, or maybe Udeshika
yeah.
bowling. Udeshika, I understand they want to keep her for the middle and death, but it felt a bit too rigid the plan in that early stages, and Pakistan really took advantage.
Yeah, I think that's it's a very fine line, right? You got especially in T20 cricket because you have these set roles for each of the players, and you want to be the kind of captain and the kind of team that gives players a chance, even if things not working out,
Yeah,
to help them kind of pull it out of the fire. But at the same time, it's so important, especially when you're coming up. Now, Chamari did mention in that post-match chat that they had some plans for India and all that, right? Which is always good to hear. But the concern is, if the plan's not working, you need to
yeah,
have something that you can pull out and be like, okay, so I'm gonna try this. Like for example, if you just to go back to a couple of months to the World Cup final, right?
mm,
I don't think the plan was ever to bowl out Bumrah early,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But you see, like you got to be able to think on the
yeah,
fly. You got to
mm,
capitalize on those moments. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but that's the sort of thing that you have to be able to do. But on the plus side, the way Chamari spoke about it and her sort of understanding of the nuances of the game, of how momentum shifts by just capitalizing on your chances, little things like missed fields, not even, like,
yeah,
of course, I mean, there were, by our count, I think there was one clear drop catch, but about four others where they could have taken
yeah,
it, had the judgment been better. Chamari did mention that the wind was bad, and I mean, we all felt it as well. Like if you just
mm,
stood out on side,
yeah,
like if you were holding a phone to take a picture, like you had to really hold on
yeah,
because you don't know if it would just fly off. So yeah, the wind was bad, but she wasn't making an excuse out of it. She was just
yeah,
pointing out that those are the conditions. But I think it's good. It's good for the players to have experienced that, and it's good for them to also start thinking in that way. Because if
yeah,
there's someone like Chamari who understands that, and if she's speaking that way with the team, that means the rest of the players will also
mm, mm,
start to
yeah,
think in terms of, okay, how can I use this moment to gain the momentum, to shift
yeah,
it back,
mm.
and yeah, it's positive signs. I mean, at the moment, I think I'm just on a high of winning. I don't really have
Yeah.
anything too
Any
negative to say.
criticism, right?
Oh yeah, it's just perfect. Everything's rosy.
Yeah.
I love them all.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about momentum, see Kavisha Dilhari again with the ball, right? Those two wickets she took in the middle overs just shifted things around. I think it was, yeah, 15th over 6 runs. She picked up Nida Dar and Sidra Amin. I think that was like, it changed the
Yeah,
game because considering how Sri Lanka fielded, And the start Pakistan got, there's no
Yeah,
way they should have kept them to 140, right? 160 was on the cards, maybe 170.
yeah. Actually, that's a really good point you make because it was 140 for four,
Yeah.
four down. This is pretty much Sri Lanka. Uh, this is what is it, Malinga and Kulasekara against Yuvraj and Kohli
Yeah.
all over again, where there's no way that that score should be kept that low. But
Mm,
wickets at the right time, dot balls, pressure at the right time, even with the caveat of, some misfields, some fumbles, some drop chances, all that put together. I mean, they pulled it back at key moments. And even with the bat, they lost two overs, two players in the power play.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Chamari rebuilt in a really un-Chamari way.
Mm,
It was calculated risks, but a lot of it was just rotating the strike, and because she knew it wasn't a big target,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then again, in the 12th over, I think they lost another two wickets,
Mm,
right? And you could see Chamari's face. She was just
yeah.
like, oh, come on. But again, they went at it,
Yeah.
and just when the time was right, I think the asking rate was kind of getting dicey, and then suddenly she hits two quick boundaries, and it's run a ball.
Mm,
21 needed or 21, you're good to go. And then, of course, she loses a wicket because even the great Chamari Atapattu isn't infallible.
yeah.
So she goes for the reverse sweep, gets bowled, and you could see. I think she was just on her knees for like a good 30
Yeah.
seconds, just
Mm,
trying to comprehend because
yeah.
she must have felt like she threw it away there.
Yeah.
Not that she didn't
Yeah.
have faith in the team; it's just that she wanted to see it through.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it goes to show also her character, doesn't it? Because like if you for a very long time it was a one woman batting lineup, right? You have Chamaria Tapatu, she scores, you win, she doesn't score, you lose. But things have changed over the last couple of years and they've had contributions from different batters. I thought Kavisha played really well. I remember this one moment she tried to go down the track, she edged one for four and she got a earful from Chamari. uh, a bit of the Kalpana Karanda
Yeah.
type of discussion because she hit the next one for four. um, then Chamari shifting her game and understanding that, look, take it deep and the game is yours, right? And I felt like even when she was dismissed, yes, it was nervy and it almost went south, but I feel like Anushka had that confidence that, she's going to take Sri Lanka home.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even Chamari would probably admit that for her to even go for a stroke like that, maybe a few years ago, she might not even have done.
Yeah.
It's just that she did that because there was probably some level of confidence that if the worst case happens, she does get out, that now with 21 needed from 21, the team can see it through. And the team proved her right. And I still haven't seen the replay of that penalty ball,
I
but
watched it. It looks like a wide. I
it
don't
looks like
think
a
it
wide.
hit. I mean, in real time, I felt like it may have hit the back click, the pad.
Yeah.
But watching the replay, it looks like a wide. Of course, there'll be some discussion about it. And to be honest, right, the unlikeliest boundary hitter, Sugandika Kumari.
Yeah, because
Where did that come from?
she missed, I think, I don't know, I lost count of how many sweeps she missed.
Yeah,
like the over prior to that, I think they needed like something like 9 from 9 or 10 9 from 8 or something. And Pakistan had put out like four boundary riders on the leg
yeah.
side, easy single, and she just kept trying to like do this sweep across and just kept missing. I'm like, just nudge it and run, just nudge it and run.
I
But
mean, those two boundaries changed the game, right? Like,
yeah, incredible, incredible, and that'll give her confidence.
yeah,
It's such a feel good moment, honestly.
yeah.
And but yeah, just going back to that wide, and we were speaking about this for the next Asia Cup, they have to have DRS, right?
Oh,
Surely.
of course, absolutely.
I
I,
mean,
I, I know it's expensive, right? And a lot of people are going to make that case, but you can't like this is the tournament in Asia, right?
yeah, it's the highest
Sure,
caliber of
I think
cricket.
look, i- once you invest in it, you're gonna make up that money somewhere down the line. Women's cricket is just beginning to show you the scope it has in terms of like the money it can make you, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's a valuable investment. It's unfortunate that DRS wasn't available because even Harshita Samaravikrama's LBW was kind of iffy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
of course, as Sri Lankans, we would say it's probably not out, but it looked like a touch and go decision, right?
Oh yeah, I
Um,
mean, at worst, you probably might even just get like umpire's call and just
yeah.
retain the review. So
Mm.
yeah,
So, lastly, to finish things off, I'm gonna just talk a bit about Anushka Sanjeevani. Okay, we spoke to her
yeah,
after the game. I don't think I've ever done a interview with her before. Very quiet, very soft spoken. This is her record in T20s. Okay, 76 matches, 64 innings, 697 runs, average of 14.82, strike rate of 89. Right, that uh, is her career from. Can't remember when she made her debut. But for matches starting this year, she has 8 innings, 97 runs, average of 32.33, and a strike rate of 110.22. It's, I'll be honest, I was one of the people who was saying it's time to move from her because,
yeah,
you can't have that kind of player who's playing only as a keeper, batting at seven. In that case, you need to be playing an extra batter, right? Because it just doesn't make sense. But during the last year, wow, the amount of growth, and I have to actually point out the fact that all these players who we speak to are crediting the positivity in the camp for their success. Because Anushka Sanjeevani, from what I know, in domestic cricket is a beast, right? She's a great player of spin, plays the sweep shot really well. I'm sure you would have seen that today she was sweeping everything, right?
yeah,
But in international cricket, she just could not crack it. But we're finally seeing that, and I've said this before on this podcast, and I was talking to you before. It really does feel to me like the lack of depth has been a blessing for the Sri Lankan women's team.
yeah. That's a very interesting point because it's not something you'd really look at, and it's also something that's probably not easy to identify because they just play such little cricket, right? But yeah, it's definitely worked in favor. I mean, Sanjeevan is the prime example. Like, if you had any level of depth, because I think you got Nutyangani, right?
Yes,
Who, who,
Nutyangana,
who,
yeah.
yeah, Nutyangana, who's the only other keeper, and she's quite young.
Mm,
So, I guess that's why they haven't put her through, and maybe her batting is not up to scratch. But whatever it is, whatever Ramesh Ratnayaka is doing in that
yeah,
camp to get everyone on the same page, and like, I mean, we were watching them play this made up warm up game that they were playing with a plastic ball and just
yeah,
hitting spikes on the ground and stuff like that, and like they just look like a really happy, fun bunch. So I mean, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of these players just playing together more, and whatever happens on Sunday,
yeah,
I think the goal has to be to just get more cricket like this. Just put them up at the Premadasa, right? Let's let's get some cricket under lights there, and let's really watch these women soar.
yeah. I'm glad you mentioned about the cricket, the amount of cricket and the quality of cricket they play because, like, I mean, pre-COVID, they weren't playing much, and then COVID happened. They didn't play for 2 years. This is a direct consequence of them playing more cricket against better opponents during a short space of time, right? They've had series after series after series after series. They haven't had huge breaks where they didn't have international cricket, right? And that's a direct consequence. Yes, I know, like there are going to be some people who say, you know, it should not have got so close today. And I admit
Yeah,
it was obvious they panicked, right? They were
yeah.
under pressure. They panicked in the field with the bat. I think in a bilateral, those 20 runs would have been chased in like
Oh yeah,
15 deliveries, right? But they took it to like the penultimate ball because there was pressure. They were panicking, right? Uh, but you have to admire the distance they have come over the last couple of years, and it's to me a direct consequence of the opportunities they are getting. They're getting paid much better. They have better resources allocated to them in terms of coaching staff, where they train, all of those things. So it's all coming together. I'm not going to go too far into that because this is a
Yeah,
reaction video. So
yeah,
I think we can kind of wrap up now. We've rambled on for a bit. The lights are
yeah.
off at
I know.
Dambulla.
I'll just add one more thing. If anyone from Sri Lanka cricket ever has a look at this, one thing we should just do. So in football, one of the main ways that like teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona sign players over, say, the money bags in like Manchester and all that is simply come to Spain. Look at it's warm, it's nice climate. Just come there. And I think we our cricket board just needs to start approaching bilateral contests in the same way. Just go to these teams and be like,
Mm,
listen, England, Australia, New Zealand, just come to Sri Lanka, have a nice little vacation here. You know, enjoy yourself, go to the beach, play some cricket, go home. I mean, no one's gonna complain. Like
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
loves the Sri Lanka tour, and I think they need to start approaching it a little bit more pragmatically in that sense, if that's possible. Just go directly to the players. You know.
Yeah, great idea. I hope, I don't know if someone from Sri Lanka cricket is watching, but if you are, there's an idea for Madushka. I think we can wrap it up
Yeah.
now. I'm sorry if there were some disturbances and if it's windy, we're outside. It's very
It's
windy in
breezy.
Dambulla.
It's breezy as hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Madushka is somewhere over there. We are in the same place,
But there
but
she is. You can see her back.
we're in the same place, but we don't have two different mics. So we decided to go with the laptop approach. If you've been with us thus far, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, we have a newsletter as well. I hope you enjoyed this reaction and I hope you enjoyed the game. If you didn't watch the whole thing, you can go to the Asian Cricket Council YouTube. The full match replay is there if you want to watch the end or you watch the whole game. That's the place to go. Thanks
Oh
for
yeah,
being with us so
just
far.
watch those last
Yeah.
20 runs. I recommend it. It's a good couple of
Because
minutes
you
spent.
don't, I mean, it's not going to hurt your heart watching it because you know the result. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for everyone listening in. And thank you, Madhushka, for joining us last minute because we really wanted to get a reaction video out today so that um, everyone could kind of discuss what went right and what went wrong for Sri Lanka. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you sometime soon, maybe after the final, hopefully after another win.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Bye.